Hi everybody and welcome back to biology class. Today we are covering topic 13, the use and abuse of drugs, and this is part 2 of the lesson. So today we are covering the subtopic 13.4, effects of tobacco smoke. And this is your first learning objective. Describe the effect of tobacco smoke and its major toxic components, nicotine, tar, and carbon monoxide, on health, strong association with bronchitis, emphysema, lung cancer, and heart disease, and the association between smoking during pregnancy and reduced birth weight of the baby. The second learning objective is to recognize the fact that many people regard smoking as a no longer socially acceptable behavior. So this learning objective here, I think, is we're not really going to get into the breakdown of this objective because I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. So as long as you know and you can express it in the exam, the fact that smoking is no longer a socially acceptable behavior or habit, then that's all that matters. So as long as we mention this today and that you understand that, I think we don't need to get into this learning objective too much. We're more like going to talk about the effects of it. So why it should be no longer socially acceptable is because of the health issues that may arise from smoking. So our main step to success today is to state the effects of tobacco smoke, to state the major components of them, and how smoking is related to these diseases like bronchitis, emphysema, lung cancer, and heart disease, as well as the effects of smoking on pregnant women. So, tobacco smoke. There are 3 main harmful chemicals found in tobacco smoke. The first one is tar. Second, we have nicotine. And third is carbon monoxide. When somebody smokes, the short-term effect of smoking can cause bronchioles to constrict. What I mean by short-term effects is while that person is smoking, at that time or that period of time that they are smoking, these are the effects that are pretty immediate. So you can see over here, this is the structure of a part of the structure of your respiratory system. You have the bronchioles right here that are branching out. And at the end of the bronchiole are these bulb-like or cauliflower-like structures, and these are the alveoli. So once air moves in, it's going to move through the bronchioles, and then it reaches the alveoli, which is a cavity, and it is also 1 cell thick, so the walls of the alveoli are 1 cell thick. And you can see that the alveoli are like right next to each other. And they're separated a little bit. Some of them are separated, some of them are not. They do have little holes that connect them together as well. And that is how air can travel inside your alveoli. And you can see that there are these blood vessels that are surrounding your alveoli, and that is where, or what we call the surface of gas exchange, so this part right here. And the bronchioles is this branch, and it branches out from the bronchus. And the bronchioles, when we say constrict, it means that it will narrow and become much more smaller. And the word constrict means narrowing or closing of a passageway. The second short-term effect of smoking can cause cilia lining in the air passages to stop beating. So if you recall from our topic on gas exchange and respiration, we learned that we do have these cells called ciliated cells that are found in the lining of the trachea. And the ciliated cells right here, they have cilia, and cilia is in charge of moving mucus from the lungs to the pharynx. And the pharynx is literally pretty much your throat. And the cilia's job is to remove the trapped mucus and other irritants away from your lungs. And smoking actually causes these cilia to stop beating. So you can guess what will happen to the mucus is the fact that they will get pretty much stuck in your airways because there's nothing moving them away. So this is an example of what can happen. So imagine this as your trachea, and you have here the lining of the ciliated cells here, and since the cilia stopped moving, the mucus is just going to pretty much get stuck there. Smoke and cigarettes also make the lining to produce more mucus. That means that the goblet cells are going to produce a lot of mucus because there are more irritants being trapped. Therefore, more mucus is needed. But the problem is that the cilia has stopped beating, and that can cause the narrowing of the passageway, and at the same time, it can cause inflammation, which means a lot of infections can occur. Okay, this is the first component that we're going to talk about is nicotine in tobacco smoke. Effects of nicotine can include the fact that it is very, very highly addictive, and nicotine is the main part of cigarette smoke that causes it to become addictive. Cigarette is made up of tobacco and tobacco leaves, and this component also has this effect on your heart that it increases the rate of the heartbeat and therefore rises your blood pressure. In some cases, it can also cause irregular heartbeat. The tar, which is the second component that is harmful in cigarette, is actually carcinogenic. And carcinogens are substances that can cause cancer. Tobacco smoke contains many carcinogens, including tar, and smoking increases the risk of lung cancer, mouth cancer, and even throat cancer. And when we think about cancer, we think about tumors. And tumors are lumps of tissues that have grown inside parts of your body, and they even may attach onto or grow inside organs that are very important for you. Cancer itself is a term used for diseases in which cells become abnormal and they divide out of control. Over here, I have provided two photos. So this is a photo of a cancer cell. And if you can make a guess where it is right now, that right there, I think, actually represents a blood vessel. So this cancer cell is not just stuck somewhere, it's actually moving. And this is how cancer actually can spread in the later stages of having cancer. So here is a blood vessel, and you can see an attachment here of cancerous cells. And the cancer cells, once they are able to move, they can go into the blood vessel. They can even come out and form a secondary tumor elsewhere in part of your body. And the thing about cancer cells is that they are cells that divide uncontrollably. And their main goal here is to divide even more. So for cells to divide, they need a lot of energy. And for us to release energy, we need to carry out cellular respiration. And where can we get the main components, the main raw material for respiration to occur? We need glucose. We also need oxygen. So in the later stages of cancer, especially lung cancer, or even any other cancer, is that the cancer cells are going to start growing in the lungs because that's where there's a high percentage of oxygen. Therefore, the cancer cells can multiply even more. So these cancer cells can move around the body and invade other tissues, including your lungs and other parts. This is an example of a picture of an X-ray of a female smoker that actually has lung cancer, and you can see how big the tumor has become. The risk of lung cells becoming cancerous increases, and tumors may develop. These balls are abnormal cells that don't allow gaseous exchange to occur, unlike normal lung cells. And when you don't have gaseous exchange, that means that the person is going to have less oxygen going into their body. And therefore, diseases may occur, and a lot of health complication will follow. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, you can also write this down as COPD if you can't remember the full term. COPD covers several lung diseases, which include chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and chronic obstructive airway disease. Symptoms of COPD, so if a person has COPD, that means that they're going to show these signs. Breathlessness when active, frequent chest pains, and persistent cough with phlegm. And phlegm refers to sticky mucus. Emphysema is the breakdown of the alveoli. Here I provided two photos. A, which is an area of enzymaceous lung. So in a way, to say it simply, this is a lung that has emphysema, and B is normal lung. So just now, if we remember that diagram, the alveolar walls. So this circle right here refers to one alveoli. That's the second one, a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one. And the walls of the alveoli are 1 cell thick. Here in A, the walls have pretty much broken down. We can't even differentiate the alveoli itself anymore. We have one here, I guess, but the others have already broken down. And that is the proof that the person has emphysema. The action of one or more substances in tobacco smoke weakens the walls of the alveoli. Irritant substances will cause the smoker's cough, and coughing bursts some of the weakened alveoli, therefore breaking the walls. And when alveoli is weakened, absorbing oxygen is greatly reduced. The smoker cannot oxygenate his or her blood properly. Therefore, this is why it can cause breathlessness, and the person can even feel very, very exhausted. Chronic bronchitis is the inflammation of the lungs. Just now we talked about emphysema, and that disease is related to the breaking down of the alveolar walls. Now we're talking about inflammation of the lungs, which is bronchitis. So here we have a diagram, and this shows the bronchioles that branches out from a bronchus. It has muscles there, allows it to pretty much, I think, constrict. And we have here a normal mucus lining and normal airway wall. And this right here is what it will look like if the person has bronchitis. The airway wall becomes inflamed. You can see that it became quite thick, and the passageway is narrowed, so the lumen is narrowed there, and there's a lot of mucus. Excess mucus is being deposited. This is an example of chronic bronchitis happening, and you can see there are lumps over here. It shows a lot of blockages that are happening. How does bronchitis develop? So the smoke itself stops cilia from beating. That means that irritants and substances from the smoke, and even the mucus that is collected at the bronchi, will pretty much start to just be deposited, and it's going to start getting more and more, and they're not being removed. So because all of the irritants from the smoke and the mucus is not cleaned away or moved away by the cilia, this can cause inflammation and also develop into bronchitis. Smoking is also related to cardiovascular diseases. That means that it is related to the heart. A stroke itself is basically a blockage that happens in the brain, though. So I need you to realize that heart attack and stroke are two different places. They occur at two different places, two different organs. However, the cause or the process of getting them is literally a blockage of a major blood vessel that is supplying blood to the heart or the brain. So how does this happen? Chemicals found in cigarette smoke will increase blood clotting. And remember, blood clotting means that the blood would become very thick. And also, blood clotting can actually literally block the passage of the blood vessel. So when we have blood clotting happening in major arteries that supply the heart, that will cause a heart attack, especially if the blockage happens in the coronary artery. And if it happens in a major artery that supplies blood to the brain, then it can cause a stroke. Next, we're going to look at the effects of smoking on babies. Smoking can increase the risk of miscarriage. Babies and children can suffer from respiratory infections, and this increases the risk of asthma in children. Long-term physical growth and intellectual development of baby or child is affected, and this increases the risk of birth defects as well. The birth weight of the baby is also reduced. Here we have a graph that shows on the y-axis baby birth weight in grams, and on the x-axis smoking quantity of cigarettes per day. You can see here 0, pretty high, around 3,400 grams of the baby's, I think, average birth weight. And if a person smokes greater than 10 cigarettes per day, it significantly reduces to 3,200 grams. And if a person smokes more than 10 times per day while they are pregnant, the baby birth weight becomes much, much lower. If I could make a guess, that's around 3,001. What's in between? 125, I guess, in a way? 25, in between here. So this shows that birth weight of baby is severely reduced, significantly reduced, if a person is pregnant and smoking at the same time. Lastly, the harmful effect of carbon monoxide in cigarettes. This is because carbon monoxide can bind permanently with hemoglobin in red blood cells. That means that this can reduce the smoker's ability to provide oxygen to respiring cells. Smokers can get out of breath more easily, and this will reduce the overall physical fitness of the person. And that is it for topic 13. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you guys stay safe and healthy. Bye!